بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف خلق المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما نافعا يا كريم اللهم آمين. جزاكم الله خيرا to all of you for coming. جزاكم الله خير to MAS and to ISDOC for organizing this event. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you all and bless you all. Alhamdulillah, we are blessed to have our beloved speaker with us, Dr. Ma'an Al-Qudat. He is an experienced lecturer in Islamic studies. In his teaching career, he has provided instruction and training to learners at school as well as college level. He also served as an imam of several Islamic centers throughout the United States and abroad. Additionally, he is a certified as a memorizer of the whole Quran with an ijazah to teach it to others. Currently, the Sheikh is an assistant professor of Islamic studies in the American Open University and an imam of Mass Cady Center in Houston, Texas. He was the acting academic dean and assistant professor at Islamic American University and research assistant at Yarmouk University. He taught courses such as Islamic jurisprudence of financial transactions, Islamic jurisprudence of worship, analytical interpretation of hadith, Muslim family law, and etc. So, Jazakallah khair, Dr. Ma'an, for joining us and for giving up your time. I know you're busy, mashallah. Jazakallah khair, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you.
مظبوط يا جماعة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. مسينا وأمسى الملك لله الحمد لله لا شريك له لا إله إلا هو إليه النشور. مسينا على فطرة الإسلام وكلمة الإخلاص وعلى دين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى ملة أبينا إبراهيم حنيفا. اللهم إنا مسينا منك في نعمة وعافية وستر فأتم علينا نعمتك وعافيتك وسترك في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما أمسى بنا من نعمة أو بأحد من خلقك فمنك وحدك لا شريك لك فلك الحمد ولك الشكر. يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. طبتم وطاب ممشاكم وتبوأتم من الجنة منزلا بإذن الله. We're glad to be with you for the second time within just a few months apart between the first time that I was here. We were talking about retirement account, if you remember. Who was here last time when we discussed retirement account, brothers and sisters? No one? Okay. Now, Jazakallah khair. And of course, Orion, Jazakallah khair. So, our topic for tonight is slightly different, as it was announced several times. We'll be discussing the cryptocurrency issue as a very brand new, topic, and people are looking, forward to know the Islamic status of the Sharia compliance status of cryptocurrency. However, there is another topic that inshallah will be discussed tonight, which is the Islamic investment or the halal investment. Halal investment actually is a very broad topic. You can tackle this issue from like different angles. You can talk about halal investments as far as the different kinds of business that you want to establish. Is it okay for me to open a grocery store? Is it okay for me to have a car dealership? Is to have a business in whatever. I mean, this is one way of discussing the issue. What kind of business that I can get involved in, right? Now, the other way is to discuss the different ways of financing halal issue. You have a lot of ideas in mind. You want to invest, but you're running short as far as funding is concerned. you want someone, somehow, somewhere to provide enough fund for you. The idea is there, the plan is there, the blueprint is there, but there is no money, okay? And if there is no money, no honey, no money, no honey, as they say, right? So we need to talk about different ways of financing, different ways of. So again, this is like another way of tackling or discussing this issue. On the other hand, even financing for others, just imagine that you are the financier, you are the one who does have the money. Well, it is an investment for you as well. Okay, you do have $100,000 in a checking account. You are not making profit because this is a checking account and not saving account. Okay, you feel sorry that the money actually is stored there and you are not making any profit. Not only that, you are losing at least 1% inflation on an annual basis. Not only that, you lose, okay, technically speaking, you lose another 2.5% zakah that you pay every single year. So you want to find a way to invest that money in a halal way, right? You can invest that money by yourself. I mean, if you do have the money and you have the idea, you have the expertise, you can just start and work by yourself, and you can give that money to other people, okay, to invest on your behalf. So you will be acting as a financier / partner or investor at the same time. And this is actually the very technical, point that I will be discussing with you tonight. Maybe you have heard me several times saying last presentation that in the Islamic finance system, loan is not a mode of finance. Loan is not a mode of finance. You cannot apply for a loan, okay, a loan to establish a business, because loan should be like interest-free one. You cannot go to the Islamic bank and ask for $1 million cash to take it and establish your own business. The bank would say, we do not lend money, right? There are different ways or different modes of finance. Okay, we can establish with you after we check your credit and we make sure that you are the right person with the right experience, with the right proposal. Then we can establish one of those or activate one of those different modes of finance, so everybody will be happy. You do have the idea, you do have the expertise, you are willing to designate your time and effort to run the business, and we have the money. So everybody will be happy. It's going to be win-win situation. Again, this is the way that I will be discussing this one, just to make sure that we are on the same page. If loan is not a mode of finance, then what are the different modes of finance? Okay. First of all, why loan is not a mode of finance? Why? Because it has to be an interest-free one. It has to be an interest-free one, right? You want $100,000. One of the brothers who pray with you in the same masjid does have $100,000. You want that money for investment purposes. You have your own business and you want to upgrade your business. Is it feasible enough? Is it reasonable enough to ask for $100,000? You take it, okay, you use that money, upgrade your business, you make it 20, 25, 30% profit, and then after 1 or 2 years, you give him back the $100,000 with a big hug, right? Jazakallahu khairan kathiran, here is your money. I mean, does it make any sense from a business perspective? It makes no sense whatsoever. If I know that you will be taking my money for investment purposes, with all due respect, I would say, no, I mean, why should I give you your money? Why should I give you my money? You want to utilize my money, okay, and extract money from the money, making money out of my money. I want to just keep watching you and just waiting for you 1 or 2 years to come back and give me my $100,000 back. I mean, this is a very bad business. Okay? If you have a plan to do business, let's sit down and talk business. I can give you the money. However, I will be a partner. Technically here, especially in this society in the US, when you say investor, it means it means short-term partner. Someone who is willing to join the business maybe for 1 or 2 years, more or less, and just exit. I mean, he takes his money and exit and just moves on with his life, right? This is the investor. Partner, it means like a lifetime partner, like someone who is staying with you permanently. Whether you want to call yourself as an investor or as a partner, from a fiqh perspective, Islamic finance perspective, it doesn't make any difference. Whether that partnership would last for 1 year or will be like a permanent one, and then you terminate it whenever you want, it's absolutely up to you. It makes no difference whatsoever. So far we established that loan is not a mode of finance because it's supposed to be an interest-free one. Loan actually should be given as a kind of cooperation, as a kind of benevolence, as a kind of charity. You find out that someone is desperately, in need for a few $1,000s to pay the tuition fees, for his kids, or to pay for the apartment, or to do like a surgery in the hospital, and he does not have money. You give him that money, and you are definitely willing to wait, let's say for a few months, right, until he pays you back, even up to 1 year, that would be fine. And you are willing to take the pain, okay, of the inflation, maybe 1%, okay, and you are willing to take even the risk of default, that person might show up on time, giving you the money, and he might not show up, right? This is a law. And when you do it exclusively to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as an act of charity, as a kind of devotion, as a kind of amal salih, that you anticipate, some reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ is the one who has told us that if you lend your money twice, of course, interest-free loan, if you lend your money twice, it will be counted as if you have donated that money. If you lend your money twice, okay, you give $5,000, you take it back, you give it to somebody else, okay, just to alleviate the hardship or to help him, and you get your money back twice, that is counted as if you have donated that money completely for the cause of Allah Azza wa Jalla. If loan is not a mode of finance, then what are the different modes of finance in the Islamic finance system? That will be, inshallah, our topic for tonight. If you want to make a very quick comparison between the traditional, the riba-based finance system and the Islamic one, the riba-based one actually is based on what is called technically the risk shifting model. Risk shifting model means you go to Chase, you go to Wells Fargo, you take $100,000 loan, right? Based on 3% APR. Okay, you make a profit, you break even, you incur loss, you lose the principal, okay, completely. The bank respectfully does not even care about you. So the bank does not care about the outcome result of that amount that he gave you. There is an agreement. You take $100,000 for 1 year, you pay it back on 03. As simple as that. Okay, whatever profit you make, whatever loss you incur, we do not care. This is actually called the risk shifting model, which means that someone is taking the whole liability, the whole responsibility, and the other one actually is taking no responsibility or no liability whatsoever. This is a kind of exploitation from our perspective as Muslims. Someone is taking advantage from the need of others. Someone might say, well, if Wells Fargo is happy with the 3% and the customer actually is happy with taking that loan, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited riba? That's a very good question. Well, this scenario actually does happen, that you take 100,000 for 3% APR and you establish your own business, you make 10-15% profit, you pay off the principal and the interest to Wells Fargo, and you keep the rest for yourself. So far so good, win-win situation. Well, it does happen every now and then that you take that money and you make not 100% profit, you make 1,000% profit. It does happen. Ask me. I know some people who make 1,000% profit, and I mean what I say. Question here: if the deal is 3% APR, is it fair enough? Is it just and fair enough for the bank to limit itself to only 3% while the borrower or the customer, okay, is making 1,000% profit? I would assume that we agree that this is absolutely unfair, right? You make 1,000% profit and the bank is limiting itself to only 3%. That makes no sense whatsoever, right? Now the other extreme scenario, that you take $100,000, 3% APR, okay? You took the money and then the pandemic, the COVID-19 started hitting and just froze the whole country, like what happened back in March 2019. You lost, okay, it was not only that you did not make a profit, you did not even like break even, you lost even the principal. Well, the bank again does not care about you. You still have to pay the principal. You still have to pay the 3% on top of the principal. Is that fair enough for you to be compelled by the law of the land to pay the principal and to pay the interest while you did not make any profit? The answer is absolutely no. Well, those two different severe, extreme scenarios do happen every now and then. And because of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited riba. Bear in mind that that is the nature of the Islamic law. When something actually is prohibited, it is prohibited every time, everywhere, regardless of the outcome result. Okay? Riba is prohibited every time, everywhere, because whenever it is implemented in any society, it does bring a lot of injustice. It does bring a lot of exploitation and injustice in that economy or in that society. Well, if risk shifting is not what we believe in, well, what we believe in as Muslims is the risk sharing. So there is a huge difference between risk shifting and risk sharing. Risk shifting, someone is taking the responsibility and the other one is not taking responsibility whatsoever. Risk shifting means either the financier, which is the bank, or could be just an individual, takes a certain amount of risk, right? And then in a different transaction, he sells or he leases whatever property, I shall explain more, to the other party. So he has taken some risk, some liability, some collateral in the beginning, and then after that, after taking his turn, he shifted that risk or that liability to somebody else. But it was not a risk shifting, model from day one. Now this is one way of doing it, and the other way is to establish a partnership. By the way, establishing a partnership is the most idealistic mode of finance from an Islamic perspective. And I will explain inshallah more. Establishing partnership means that we are partners. I provide the money, you provide the labor and the management. Okay, you are entitled, for a certain percentage of the profit whenever there is a profit, right? And I'm entitled for a certain percentage of the profit whenever there is a profit. But I cannot give you again the $100,000 until you listen. We are partners. You have to secure, you have to guarantee for me, let's say $2,000 a month. We are still partners, but you have to guarantee for me, you have to pay me $2,000 profit every single month. Not only that, toward the end of the business cycle or business course or fiscal year, you have to pay me back my principal. Well, this is not a partnership. What if I did not make a profit? What if the profit was way more or way less? Do I still commit myself to paying you $2,000? This is actually not what we believe in. Look at this slide here. Bank-free financing, different Islamic modes of finance for business people. Why I'm calling it bank-free financing? Because here in this society, whenever I think about establishing a business, the very first thing comes to my mind is to go to the closest bank, right, and apply for a loan. Well, we said several times that loan is not a mode of finance. Can we challenge the system, stand against the system in the US in a very positive way and activate different Islamic modes of finance? My answer is yes. And I'll give you an actual, real, hands-on example or case that I was involved in as guidance scholar that I'm representing tonight. A few years ago, okay, we wanted to make a business, like a side business. Okay, we brought on board an investor who was willing to pitch in or to pay $100,000 investment. Right? He purchased two different apartment complex, two different units, 50,000 for each. Right? He closed on those two different units. They became his, like he became the owner, the landlord, if you wish. Right? So he paid $100,000 to buy them, right? And then he sold them again to us for 5% straightforward profit on an annual basis. It's not 5% APR, it is 5% actual profit. So he said that, okay, you will be paying me $5,000 a year for the next 5 years. So I pay $100,000. I take it back how much? $125,000 within the next 5 years. Where is the risk sharing here? Risk sharing actually is clear. He did buy the property. Allah forbid, if something happened in between, insurance will not cover, he will be incurring the loss. Who has taken the responsibility of owning those two different units? It was the investor. So he took his share of the risk, and then he sold those 2 units back to Guidance College for whatever price that we agreed on. This mode of finance is called murabah. Mode of finance is called murabah. If we are to do it in a very traditional way, we'll be taking $100,000 from Bank of America, buy whatever we want, and just commit to paying the bank back 100,000 plus 3 or 4. But actually, we do it in an Islamic way. So he purchased a spot sale. He took the liability, the responsibility, the collateral of owning 2 different apartment units, and then a different transaction. He sold that college for whatever price we agreed on. This is not equity-based mode of finance. This is debt-based. Debt-based. We call it debt-based mode of finance. Whether you go with the equity-based or you go with the debt-based, we have to make sure that a certain amount of risk has been already existing, taken by the financier. If that is not proven, then whatever we call it, whether you call it murabah or musharaka or ijara, it is not the Islamic finance that we are talking about. It is something else. Always remember, العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. What matters in transactions is the essence and reality, not the wording or the formality. So even if you you tweak, change some of the terms and the agreement, right, to make it looks like as if it is an Islamic one, if there is no risk involved in it for the financier, for the one who provides the money, then this is not the Islamic finance that we are talking about. Moving on briefly, what I'll be sharing with you from now on, different modes of finance. Okay, this category is called equity-based mode of finance. Equity-based or a kind of partnership. The first one is called mudaraba. Mudaraba actually fits perfectly fine for someone who does have the expertise and the availability and the willingness to run a business, but he does not have money. And the other partner or the other party is someone who does have money, but he is not available enough, or he is not expert enough, or he is not willing enough to get involved in that business. So we have a rich individual who has money, who wants to make business, make profit, and we have somebody else who is expert enough in a certain business. Right now, based on this model, as you see here, mudaraba means trustee partnership. Why I'm discussing too many details here? Because actually, I want us all here to be courageous enough, right, to break the ice and to challenge the system, and not to wait until Muslims in the USA establish their own finance system, right, that is completely independent from the US. No, we can do it on an individual level. We can do it on a community level. We can establish or activate or reactivate those different Islamic modes of finance between ourselves here. And we can definitely apply Islamic finance perfectly fine. This is one of the advantages actually of living here in this society. Once we came up with an agreement, okay, we just go together to to our business attorney. We establish LLC, Limited Liability Corporation. In the bylaws of the LLC, we just break down all the clauses and the conditions in that agreement, and it's gonna work perfectly. There is nothing against the law of the land. There is nothing against the law of the land. There is a lot of flexibility here. You can do literally whatever you want, especially when you do it like an individual between you and I. We can just take aside, put together some ideas, run it by the attorney, put it in a legal contract, sign it, notarize it, and it will be binding. As simple as that. It will be binding, and it could be 100% Islamic finance practice. Moving on. Mudaraba actually again fits perfectly fine for this scenario. where someone is willing to work and has expertise and available enough, and somebody else who has money, right? You put them together based on mudarab or the trustee partnership. Okay, as you see here, the investor provide the capital and and the customer manage the business. Profit is shared in a pre-agreed ratio. Okay, this is in case of having a profit. Okay, always, if someone, like especially the financer, if someone tries to guarantee his principal or guarantee his profit, this is not an Islamic finance. Prophet ﷺ said, "Al-kharaju bil-daman." Profit follows liability. So I give him the money as an investor and tell him, okay, whenever we have net profit, I am entitled for 30%, 40%, 50, 70, whatever we agree. There is no restriction here. Okay. What if there is no profit whatsoever? Well, you just pay me back my money. Worst case scenario, what if you lost the principal that I gave you? As long as it is proven, there was no negligence or carelessness from his side, believe it or not, I cannot even go after him and ask for my principal. I will be losing my principal. Right? Now, what kind of loss he will be incurring? Well, he will be working for free because he's a partner. He is not entitled to any salary, believe it or not. He cannot ask for a salary. He can take like an account payment, let's say 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, whatever we agree upon, okay, as a kind of in-account payment. Toward the end of the year, we'll sit down together and find out if his share in the profit is 60,000 and he has taken 5,000 every month. It means that we just break even. 5 times 12, that is 60,000. If his share is 70,000, then he is entitled to take another 10,000. If his share is only 40,000 and he took 60, then he has to pay the company back, $20,000 and so on and so forth. Of course, in the real life, when you establish mudaraba, there are a lot of details, tiny technical details. What will happen if he did not show up? What will happen if there is a fraud, for example, or dishonesty? What if someone wants to break it? I mean, a lot of details. But we are not here tonight to discuss everything. We are just throwing some ideas to introduce ourselves to different, Islamic modes of finance, because the main topic of tonight is halal investment, and this is actually a kind of investment. So that is the mudaraba. How about the musharaka? Musharaka means partnership. Mudaraba means trustee partnership. Musharaka means partnership. In a sense that someone does have a business already, right? And he wants more money, or otherwise we have two different investors who are willing to put their money together and establish a business. Okay, they can definitely do so. Agree on whatever they have in mind. If someone is the active partner, the one who runs the show, and the other one is the silent partner, sometimes they call him the sleeping partner, someone who is agreed that he has nothing to do with the day-to-day operation of the business. He just gives the money and goes home, right? That one who is running the business, each one of them, let's say, paid 100,000, right? Can the active partner ask for 70% profit for the inactive one? The answer is yes, because actually he's working 8 hours a day to run the business, so he's entitled to. When it comes to loss, they have to share the loss proportionally. They cannot go with 70%, 30%, because if you paid 50% of the principal and you incur only 30% of the loss, it means that you are securing or guaranteeing 20% of your principal, which is not allowed. Brothers and sisters online, would you please make sure that you mute yourself? Thank you. Diminishing musharaka is very close to the musharaka one, but it's more toward financing purposes. A very good example for it is the Islamic mortgage companies who go with this mode of finance. Diminishing partnership, diminishing or declining musharaka. It means that there is a company, like an Islamic mortgage company, wants to help you, and of course they're going to make a profit. It's not a sadaqah or donation. It's a business, right? But they want to help you financing your own home. Okay, you have only 5% of the price of the house. They are willing to pay 95% of the price of the house. So we establish a partnership, 5% your good self, 95% the company, and we become partners. Now, in the ideal situation, partnership means partnership. So all the expenses, maintenance, insurance, tax, right, has to be shared proportionally based on the percentage of ownership. The name of that company has to be written, okay, on the title or the deed as an owner, not as a lien holder, right? And then upon an agreement between the two parties, you start occupying or living in that house, right? And you make a monthly payment. That monthly payment is to be divided into like two different portions. One of them is the rent, because you are the only one who is living in that house, and a small portion would go toward the equity, right? So you purchase the shares of that company gradually. We started 5% yourself, 95% the company. After 1 or 2 months, you become 6% owner, 94, right? 7%, 93, and on and all the way until you make the very last payment. So you become 100% owner, and you kick them out of the. That's what they call it, diminishing or declining partnership. It's really unfortunate to say that the vast majority of the Islamic banks and Islamic mortgage companies, I'm not talking about USA in general, okay, globally speaking, they manipulate those different Islamic modes of finance so much so that they became almost liability free. So they went all the way back to the risk shifting model instead of risk sharing. They kept just tweaking and changing and manipulating and corrupting those different modes of finance until we reach to a point where absolutely there is no difference. Almost there is no difference between the traditional haram riba-based financing versus what is so-called the Islamic one. It is unfortunate, but this is the reality, unfortunately. So that's the diminishing partnership. Now, I wanted to compare equity-based with the debt-based. Now we are done with the equity-based, right? Equity-based mudaraba, equity-based musharaka, equity-based diminishing musharaka. Now let's move on with the debt-based. Debt-based in a sense that there is no long-term partnership between the financier and the other party. Yet the risk actually is proven to be taken by the financier for a certain period of time. Let's go with this model, which is the murabaha. And remember the example of Guidance College with that investor. He bought the property, so he became the owner. He became the legal owner, the liable party for that real estate. And then a different transaction, he sold it with a higher price. That's why they translate it to an installed payment sale. Sometimes they call it cost plus. He bought it for $100,000. He sold it, 5 years installment for $125,000. That's the murabba. Again, in the real life, there are a lot of scenarios that have to be captured in the agreement. I'm just here, throwing some light on the concept of murabba, on the concept of ijara, and not to go through the details. The ijara one, for you as a financier, is a kind of halal investment. You have $100,000, you want to make money, okay? Through the ijara one, you purchase a property and you rent it, right? If you want to utilize it as a rental property, okay, then you will continue being the owner for forever. But if you want to give that property to your customer, then you go with something very close to it called lease to own. Yeah, lease to own. Okay, how does lease to own work? Okay, you purchase the property as an investor. We have to make sure that you are the landlord, and throughout the whole lease agreement, you are the exclusive responsible party for the major expenses of the property. Property tax is your responsibility. Major maintenance issues is your responsibility. By major, I do not mean like wear and tear, a faucet or a carpet. No, I'm talking about something that's really fundamental, like foundational issue, like ceiling, like roofing, air conditioning, something that is really serious, right? You are the responsible party for it. Maintenance, tax, insurance is your responsibility. You have to make sure that you keep that house habitable or livable for your client or for your tenant, right? Now, in return, you justify, you permit for yourself taking that rent. Now, if it is proven that the landlord either not fully responsible or liable or even owner of the property, or not taking the responsibility of paying the insurance and the tax and the maintenance, this is actually a manipulated, a fake ijara mode of finance. It's not the real one. Unfortunately, that's a very common practice. Here in the US, there's something called triple net. I'm sorry, they call it triple net. Have you heard about it? Triple net. Triple net means that an investment company buys a strip mall, for example, and they sign a lease agreement with their customers. Triple net, no insurance, no tax, no maintenance. You are by your own. You as a tenant, you are responsible for the property tax, for the insurance, and for the maintenance. Even if the maintenance is a serious, major, fundamental issue, you are by your own. And they still call it ijara. Well, it is not. It is not. Right? You have to be, as a landlord, you have to be fully responsible for everything. So that is the ijara one. Something else called istisna. Maybe you have noticed by now that not every single mode of finance fits for all cases. Istisna actually is different. Istisna means manufacturing sale. So you want to purchase a house, but the house is not existing. You want to construct, you custom design a house the way that you want, right? So the house is not there. You cannot go the murabaha. Am I correct? Because murabaha actually fits for an existing property. You cannot go the ijara, because the ijara goes with the existing property. You go with the istisna. For example, like a medical doctor, a group of investors, medical doctors, they want to build their own hospital or their own like offices or practice, right? They want to custom design, put it in a way that fits their need. So they bring on board construction company. And this is a very, very common business in the US, by the way, right? Construction companies. That construction company will be responsible for the overall performance of the property from day one. So the one who is responsible for buying the raw materials is the construction company. The one who is responsible for building and constructing is the construction company. The one who is taking the liability, whatever liability or risk or damage or appreciation or depreciation, whatever risk might be throughout the whole process from A to Z, is taken by whom? By the construction company. If that is proven, then this is actually one of the very genuine and authentic ways of investment or halal investment in the Islamic finance system, which is al-istisna. It is a combination of ijara, like you hire someone to construct, and it is a sale, because like they buy the materials and they construct. They just give you the key, good to go, right? That's why it's called istisna. It's a combination of sale and ijara agreement. If it is done this way, okay, they are responsible for everything, okay, and it doesn't hurt at all if they ask you for a periodical payment, like you start paying them in advance even before starting. That would be fine. Again, as long as it is proven that throughout the whole process, from the day that you sign the agreement with them all the way until the key is ready to open the door and start using the property, if they are the responsible party throughout the whole process long, then that's the istisna that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted. There is something maybe not mentioned here, which is aqdul salam. Aqdul salam means prepayment sale. Prepayment sale. I want to buy a laptop. Okay, its market value, I would say, is $1,000. Right. So I give money to somebody else. To search and to look for the exact specification that I want. So he might be able to buy it for $900. So I give him 1,000 a certain period of time to go and search and just bring me that laptop. So he buys it for 900 and sells it to me for 1,000. If it is proven that from the time that he takes the money in advance until he brings me the laptop, he was responsible for any potential damage or loss of the laptop, was stolen, or whatever happened, if he was responsible throughout the whole process long, then that is the salam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided. Again, this is just like a brief introduction to the different Islamic modes of finance. I know that you have a lot of questions in mind, so I'm going to stop the recording and just open the floor for question and answer before we go to the session 2, which is the cryptocurrency. Okay, the floor is yours. Yes, sir.
In the ijara mode, if the Lucy defaults in the middle of the process, how do you determine the equity?
Can you say it again, please?
So if you do the ijara mode of financing, okay, so they say you agree on a number of payments for whatever years, and
Right.
then you transfer the title or the ownership of the property. If throughout in the middle of the process, this client stops paying, how is it fair to assess how much equity?
You just terminate the agreement, number one. And if it is, if it was lease to own, then you need to find out how much equity he or she made, right? And that's actually his right, because like so it was a kind of a cumulative, ownership. So he owned 20%, for example, and then he just stopped, right? Well, after breaking the agreement, he is still owning 20% because you already charged him for that. So you pay him the market value of 20% of the house, and you just kick him out, and the house is back to you. Bear in mind that you charge him a monthly payment that is like split 2 different payments, right? One payment goes toward the rent, and the other one goes toward the equity. The rent actually is rent. I mean, he utilized that money by just occupying. That's called the usufruct, حق الانتفاع, right? So we're talking about the other portion that went toward his equity. That is the counted one. So it's still an owner. I know. So is this not only for manufacturing, or does it include services? Can you give me an example? What do you mean by services? I need to hear more from you. Like comments, questions, anything in mind? Yes, sir.
So the moral the cost plus. Let's say that person sells you at a profit 10% over 5 years. Within that 5 years, you didn't manage to pay back. It reached 7 years, 6 years. Will the amount still stay the same, or how much you will?
Once we agree on a price, then that agreement actually is binding. Okay, binding in a sense that the amount cannot be increased because of delaying the payment, and cannot be decreased because of early payment. It is, as you said, 125,000 for 5 years. Even like in our case, even if we decide to pay next day in the morning, I mean, we have to commit ourselves to paying 125,000. Good news here is that the seller or the investor does have the right to waive the profit, which is something usually happen. Like if you pay in 1 year, I mean, it doesn't look good if he like insists in charging you 125,000. He would just limit himself to the profit of 1 year, which is 5,000 in our example, and just move on. But if he insists, that is absolutely his right.
But how about if you increase the time because of you could not pay? Let's say instead of 5
No, you cannot.
the time is counted.
No, you cannot. Unless you break the deal. You terminate the agreement and you re-establish a new agreement. Because if you increase, like prolong the time and increase the payment, that is riba. That's absolutely riba, right? So we have to make sure that the first agreement is terminated, and then you re-establish agreement one more time, and just you prolong or you extend the payment or the installment period for as long as you want. So far we have been discussing the halal investment from a finance perspective, right? Which is one of the ways of discussing the issue. Let me take more questions from the brothers and sisters and just move on to a different topic. Yes, sir.
No, on rent to own. So the owner is responsible for paying the taxes and the insurance and the maintenance on the house.
Are you talking about lease agreement or lease to own?
Lease to own.
No, lease to own actually it has to be paid proportionally. Proportionally. So if the customer is owning 25%, then he is responsible for 25% of the tax, maintenance and insurance. Yeah, because actually we ended up having partnership. We started lease to own, but since it is lease to own, the customer actually is building equity, ownership as he goes, right? So he's responsible for whatever he owns, maintenance, tax, and insurance. And again, when we say maintenance, we're talking about the major maintenance expenses, something that's really significant, wear and tear, something that's really minor, like a broken window or a tear carpet or something. I mean, this is the responsibility of the one who occupies the property. Yes, sir.
So in the rent to own, if you're doing rent to own, then if the landlord responsible for the insurance or the maintenance, as a owner investor, the insurance will charge you as an investment, not as a homeowner. So if you have a claim on a roof, your deductible is going to be high. So there is a difference as having a homeowner insurance and having an investor insurance on the property. So for example, the claim came as $20,000 insurance. As an investor, my deductible $6,000-7,000. Who's going to be responsible for that share if I'm going to hold the policy as an owner? What's the difference if purchase?
Yeah.
What's the difference if the other party he holds the insurance policy, which is going to be cheaper and is going to cover the whole entire claim?
Right. The brother actually is referring to a very technical point, which is purchasing insurance by a company, by a business, versus purchasing insurance by an individual. So if you are like using a property as your homestead, right? This is the problem. Your residential area, the house that you live in. You purchase insurance way cheaper than if the company that already financed for you purchases that insurance. This is I would say a technical / commercial issue that has nothing to do with fiqh. I mean, what we are discussing here is the haram and halal and the structure of the agreement. And I'll give you a practical example. Guidance Residential, not Guidance College, the one that's no. Guidance Residential is an Islamic mortgage company. Okay, they have the same concern that you do have. Okay, when our fiqh council AMJA asked them to get involved in purchasing insurance, they said, well, we can do that, but we give that option to our customer. Tell them, listen, if you want us, okay, to apply or to file for buy insurance, pay for the insurance, we will be treated as a company, as a corporation, right? As an investment company. So the price will be, the premium will be like very high. If you decide to purchase your own insurance, it's going to be way less. And of course, I mean, the customer would get scared because he doesn't want to pay more, right? So he chooses to purchase his own insurance. But again, this is a technical issue that has a lot to do with the expenses and will be, but it's not a haram and halal issue. But to answer it from a fiqh perspective, if the investment company or the mortgage company, right, is going with the musharaka, then they have to share their portion of the premium of the insurance. Who's going to file for the insurance? Who's going to pay for it? That's a different issue. Maybe they can come up with a solution where the customer is the one who is purchasing the insurance, but the company would compensate him, of course, in a legal way, right? Just to keep the expense to the minimum. Now, totally.
Question with reference to real estate loans. Typically, what you're talking about, who bears the risk, is where the borrower is guaranteeing the principal. But if it is a non-recourse loan where there is no personal guarantee involved, the only recourse that the lender has is the asset itself. They can take possession of the asset, and that is the only recourse they have. And if the asset loses value, then the lender loses on that loan. So a non-recourse loan, how is that looked at?
What do you mean by recourse here?
Recourse means there is personal guarantee. If I'm a borrower, I'm personally guaranteeing, if I'm taking a $100,000 loan, that principal is guaranteed to be paid back. But if it is a non-recourse loan, that I'm, as a borrower, not personally guaranteeing the principal.
Then who's guaranteeing it?
There is no guarantee. The only collateral or recourse that the lender has is to take possession of the property itself.
طيب, do you want to connect this discussion with which mode of finance so I can answer you properly?
I don't know which one.
I think that shows.
Because basically there is no loan here. I mean, what we have been discussing, whether it is murabaha or, well, in the murabaha, technically speaking, that after the execution of the second agreement, the sale agreement, the customer actually will be owing the total price or the outstanding balance to whom? To the investor or to the previous or ex-landlord, right? But the house actually is his. Now, does the investor have the right to put a lien on the property? Of course, yes. Of course, yes. I mean, he wants to make sure that the customer will be paying on time. So he can put a lien on the property until the principal and the profit both paid off, and then he can just release the title, give it to the customer. When it comes to ijara, again, there is no loan, right? You as investor, you are the owner of the property throughout the whole lease agreement long. Even if it goes 20 or 25 years, you are the owner. So there is no need to worry about securing your fund, because again, you are the owner. Musharaka actually does not involve any debt, right? You pitch in certain amount of money and your partner pays money, and there is no loan here involved. I'm not sure if I answered the question.
I'm not sure either.
I have the same question.
Yes, sir.
Maybe we have the same vision.
Right.
The non-recourse loan from the bank, is it halal or not halal? Since the bank taking the risk of you not paying the loan.
What kind of risk?
Let's say I'm purchasing a building for a business or a house. There is no recourse, there is no, I'm not guaranteeing the loan on the investment. The bank is only guaranteeing the asset. If I fail to pay the loan back, they're not gonna go after me. They're just gonna take that asset and they sell it, it's their money.
Well, what determines the Sharia compliance or haram or halal is not whether it is recourse or non-recourse. What determines what makes a difference is it an interest-bearing loan or interest-free loan? This is the only factor that we depend on passing a fatwa. If there is a interest involved in it, whether recourse or non-recourse, it doesn't make a difference. It is still an interest-bearing loan. Thus, it's haram. So recourse versus non-recourse has a lot to do with securing the money more than to do with the Sharia compliance status. And I would assume if you are talking about a traditional bank, well, this is actually a haram loan, interest-bearing loan, regardless.
Many Islamic finance, or especially for the estate here in US, how we can distinguish between all these Islamic finance that are to be Islamic finance or
Well, Islamic mortgage companies in the US is a big topic by itself. All of them claim to be Sharia compliant, strictly Sharia compliant. Most of them do not have proper religious authority or Sharia advisory board and supervisory board to make sure that the standards are correct and the application of those standards actually is accurate and correct. Unfortunately, my advice is to depend on a third party, like in a fiqh council that you trust. They have studied the model of those 5 different companies, major companies in the US, and you just take their fatwa. If you do trust our fiqh council, AMJA, the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America. Okay, you can just Google it. I mean, you can go directly to the declaration that we have made regarding the mortgage companies. You can Google AMJA online. Sorry, AMJA Islamic Mortgage Companies. Just Google it. It will take you there. AMJA Islamic Mortgage Companies. You will find the declaration. We did our homework. We studied the model of those companies, and we found out a certain conclusion. And it's written in both in Arabic and in English. Okay, we covered 5 major companies: Guidance Residential, University Islamic Financial, Devon Bank, Ijara Loan, and La Riba. We found out that the last 2 companies are not Sharia compliant whatsoever. La Riba and Ijara Loan, they are not. They are like traditional mortgage process. Guidance Residential, yeah. Guidance Residential is the best option. It doesn't mean that their model is ideal or perfect. It's not, but it is acceptable enough within the given circumstances. In order after that, UIF, University Islamic Financial, and then Devon Bank. Ijara Loan and La Riba should not be of course, each one of them has its own mode of finance. Problem here is not with the Murabah itself or with the Ijara or the Musharaka. Problem is with the application, the way that they conduct those mode of finance. Do they comply with the requirements of those mode of finance? The answer is absolutely no. As I said, it's a long topic because those companies do not operate independently, right? They deal in the secondary market. They sell their contracts to Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. So they have to make sure that their contracts are, Freddie Mac compliant, more than to be Sharia compliant. But anyway, within the given circumstance in the USA, okay, that the other option is the traditional haram mortgage one. Halal enough is way better than, like, as they say, something is better than nothing. So in order, Guidance Residential, University Islamic Financial, Devon Bank, and that's it. Ijara Loan, La Riba are not an option.
These 3, they also deal with the secondary market.
They all deal with the secondary market, but they are not in the same level of seriousness and dedication in coming up with a mode of finance that's up to a certain limit, acceptable Islamically, meanwhile sellable to Freddie Mac. Guidance Residential invested a lot of money and effort to come up with a mode of finance called diminishing partnership or declining partnership. What is unique about this company is that they operate. Do we have to have the mic? I think we have to have it. It's good. Huh? You don't have it. It's good. Okay. Here you go. Let me just keep it away from my mouth. Right. Yeah. What is different about this company is that it operates as an investment company, not as a bank or as a mortgage company. And regulations and rules wise, it makes a lot of difference. If you operate as an investment company, you do have the right to own the property, right? And that's why they do own the property. They create what's called LLC, and they put the name of the LLC number on the deed as an owner. So they share the ownership with you, which is as we already discussed, very fundamental difference between Islamic and non-Islamic, because ownership means liability. However, they, in a way or another, they just excuse themselves from taking, the insurance and the tax and the maintenance, which is like a very big defect in the contract. Okay. Something else that they guarantee their principal in certain cases, which is again the principles of partnership. So, for example, if they invested $500,000, okay, to help you purchasing a house, and you decided to change your mind, you just want to break the agreement. Okay, that's fine. You just put the house on the market, you sell it, you enjoy the profits, you incur the loss. They do not care. You have to pay them back whatever they paid for you. $500,000, our example, you have to, pay them back $500,000, which is again is the principles of partnership. They have their own justification on why they do so. Insurance, for example, they said, okay, we can do insurance, but it's going to be very expensive. because we operate as a company, as an investment company. While you as an individual, if you purchase your insurance, it's going to be way cheaper. So once you hear it,
Then the coverage is gonna be better.
was that?
The coverage is gonna be much better.
Yeah, I see.
Well, you can benefit as you go, as you rent it. Because if you have for anything, if you have any claim, if you purchase it, it's gonna be way cheaper and the coverage is gonna be much better.
The coverage, you said?
Yeah, because me as a landlord, you're not gonna have that with the coverage.
I see. So maintenance, they said that you are the one who is occupying the property, you are by your own property tax. They said you are the one who is benefiting from the property tax through the 911 service and the parks and the streets and the school system and so on and so forth. So we do not live there, so you take care of your own tax. So they find their own way of waiving themselves or excusing themselves from participating in covering the expenses. All these, like, defects or glitches, influence the Sharia of the level of Sharia compliance. But overall speaking, according to our assessment as a fiqh council, that their model is still reasonable. Again, comparison to traditional mortgage, haram mortgage, I mean, this one is way better. UIF is different. They operate as a bank, so they do not have the right, of owning the property for a long period of time. That's why they do it in a very nominal way to skip the ownership. Recently, they came up with a new. I'm not sure if I call it policy or a trick or whatever. They give a power of attorney. They call it al-wakala sirri. Okay, like a secret power of attorney to their client, asking him or her to purchase the house, putting it under his name directly on behalf of UIF, which makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, if the name of UIF is not reflected on the documents, then how can we prove the ownership? Okay, and that power of attorney or proxy that they give to the client has no legal power. It has absolutely nothing to do with the. So, and if that is the case, anyone can just go to Chase or to Bank of America and just ask them to give him a power of attorney, and the whole mortgage system in the US will become halal. It makes no sense whatsoever. They won't back, I would say, just copy and paste from UIF, almost the same. Moving on with the cryptocurrency. As you see here, it's a decentralized currency from day one. It has no financial authority behind it. Any currency that we use nowadays is backed up by an authority, by the Federal, Reserve, by a central bank, whether American dollars or Jordanian dinar or any other, currency. It is guaranteed by the power and by the jurisdiction of the government. It's not the case when it comes to cryptocurrency. It's decentralized. We have no authority to complain to or to communicate with. Mr. Anonymous from behind the scene came up with the cryptocurrency, and people started accepting it, as we go. Our Fiqh Council, AMJA, I would say, was more conservative in the past regarding the permissibility of cryptocurrency. Number one, because it is decentralized. Number two, there is no tangible, measurable reasons behind, or known reasons behind the significant fluctuation of the market value and the purchase power of the cryptocurrency. Maybe you still remember a few years ago when the Bitcoin in particular went down almost 70% loss. And from that time on, it keeps fluctuating up and down, going up and going down. Until today, we do not know what is the reason behind this significant fluctuation, which is something constitute gharar. Gharar means ambiguity, right? It's a semi-gambling business when you buy a currency and you do not know. Maybe tomorrow morning it will jump up maybe 500% up or down. You do not know, right? Which is something actually makes the business very suspicious and very risky for no legitimate reason. Like when the American dollars goes up and down, you can measure why. Okay, maybe there's a turmoil, maybe there's a possibility of war with Ukraine, with Russia. I mean, there are some reasons that influence the market value and the purchase power of the US dollar. When it comes to cryptocurrency in general, we cannot even measure it. So the gharar, the ambiguity here, the uncertainty actually is very recognizable. Third reason actually was the fact that some people might use cryptocurrency for money laundering, which is an illegal act. We did not even dare saying in the past that cryptocurrency is haram. Okay. However, recently, like 3 or 4 years after the first fatwa that we issued, and because of the increase of the general acceptance, to put it this way, of cryptocurrency, it is imposing itself. I mean, you cannot just put your head in the sand and act as nothing happened, right? A lot of intercontinental companies started accepting and acknowledging cryptocurrency as a method of payment. Some central banks actually do. Some retail banks do. Believe it or not, the IRS in the United States here will start charging tax on cryptocurrency. I think starting 2022, or they started last year. So this is actually like a very official acknowledgement of cryptocurrency. It is there. It is imposing itself, whether we like it or not, by choice, by force. It is there. So our recommendation is that if you want to trade in cryptocurrency, go for it. Be extra careful. It's not haram. It is between, I would say, like mubah and makruh. Okay, mubah because it is generally accepted, which is one of the criteria that has to be matched for any currency to be accepted, right? Which is the case. I mean, nowadays we cannot ignore the presence and the strong actually existence and presence of cryptocurrency. What comes before cryptocurrency, like what they call it, the tokens, right? Tokens that could be transferred some way, somehow to become, cryptocurrency. All the process from the beginning until the end takes the same rule of the cryptocurrency. So let's say, for example, that cryptocurrency is permissible. Anything comes before it would become permissible by default. So we do not have any serious issue with the cryptocurrency from now. It was not the case 4 or 5 years ago when people started talking about the Sharia compliance stats or the permissibility of dealing with cryptocurrency. Comments, questions? So you're good to go with it. I mean, if you are like courageous enough to take the risk of dealing with Bitcoin, go for it. It might actually be hard for us as American Muslims to be in that like very advanced position, because we have a lot of restrictions and regulations when it comes to business transactions or anything that's related to trade and business. We do have our own religious restrictions. So it's really hard to overlook all these restrictions and just be proactive ahead of other people and just jump to a fatwa that this is halal. Very good example is the cryptocurrency. We cannot actually ignore the gharar issue, the ambiguity, right? نهى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن بيع الغرر. Right? Any transaction you get involved in, if you do not know in advance how much you have to pay and how much you will be getting in return and what you will be getting in return and when you will be getting in return, that's a kind of gharar. Is it a significant or a minor or a major one? That's a different discussion. But we cannot ignore the concept of gharar, because that's again like part of the Islamic finance system. Anything that is, that has a semi-gambling nature, we have to be like very suspicious and very careful and just back off until we make sure. So what happened with the cryptocurrency is that we went subconsciously, okay, with the default rule, oh, this is something suspicious. There's a lot of gharar involved in it. We can't get involved. There is no authority behind it. And one of the criteria is that any currency to be legitimate and accepted, it has to be authorized by the authority, or it has to have a certain level of general acceptance. So honestly, I see it, maybe I disagree with you, I see it as a positive sign that Muslims in the beginning were very cautious, suspicious, just watching what's going on. some of our fuqaha and mashayikh, they just jump to a conclusion that cryptocurrency is haram, like the Grand Mufti of Egypt, for example. He should have fatwa that cryptocurrency is haram. And with all due respect, we disagree with it, right? Some others said, no, it's 100% halal from day one. I mean, they had no restriction whatsoever. Okay, our fiqh council and some other fiqh councils and like Sharia advisory boards were, I would say, in the in the middle. We didn't say it is haram, but we did not encourage our community. And until today, I do not encourage my community to to go heavily involved in cryptocurrency, because the restrictions or the concerns are still there. Let me ask you this: what if you purchase, let's say, 1 unit of Bitcoin, right? For how much is it nowadays?
46,000.
46,000 per unit.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any guarantee that within 1 or 2 months from now it will go down to 5,000? Like, based on my analysis, there is no guarantee. If this is actually not a huge, significant, recognizable, risk or gharar, then what is the gharar? You see? So again, and I see it as a positive sign, not as a negative one. From now on, if you want to move on with the cryptocurrency, go for it. But again, I mean, you are by your own. You will be taking a huge risk.
The way I see it, sorry, for halal and haram, it's more the way you invest more than the investment itself. For example, it's like if you want to invest in crypto, any kind of crypto, the way I look at it, I'm not going to say halal or haram, but I see it's completely wrong to go and put 100% of your capital into a market and think, okay, this is halal. The way I see it's more reasonable, like if you have a strategy that Islamic institution will put, try not to use more than 10% of your capital to invest in crypto. And that start making a lot more sense than just cutting it off between halal and haram. And the issue that we have in the Muslim world in general, like I'm from Jordan, if fatwa come from Egypt, I'm not taking it. Come from Jordan, Saudi, I'm not taking it. I need fatwa from here, people who know the crypto world. So I'm not taking anything from overseas anymore because I don't believe in it, not because it's bad, but because it's affected by a lot of political issues. Jordan, you cannot do crypto. Why? I don't know why. I know it has nothing to do with crypto, it has to do with the government policies.
And I agree with you. It's a well-known investment strategy. Do not put all eggs in one basket. So until today, I'm saying that if you want to get involved in cryptocurrency, go for it. But as you said, do not invest more than 10-20% of your surplus money for investment purposes. Do not put them in cryptocurrency because it's still risky. I have read some articles that cryptocurrency will stabilize itself. A lot of competition would happen between different cryptocurrency, and they will stabilize, their performance to be more attractive, okay, for investors, to get involved. What is the mechanism? Honestly, I have no clue whatsoever, but I doubt it. I've been like watching, the news since 2015, 16, when people started talking about cryptocurrency until today. The amount of risk, honestly, is still there. You might ask a question, why MJ changes its mind? Because of the level of general acceptance, right? 3-4 years ago, it was not as accepted, as prevailing, as imposing itself as it is now. I mean, what else you want more than the fact that the IRS is charging tax, for the cryptocurrency? So it is there. I mean, by choice, by force, it is there. So we have to live with it here. And yes, sir.
So they're going to, just like stocks or bonds, there is Sharia guidance on which one is Sharia compliant versus not. So does that ruling apply to crypto as well? So are we going to start seeing this type of cryptocurrency? I don't know enough about crypto to say one way or the other, but are we going to get more guidelines about, hey, this type of crypto is more Sharia compliant than this one? Because that's where my question is. Because for stock, yes, I am investing through certain Sharia compliant funds, which.
The only difference between, like, as far as our fiqh council, the only difference is, again, the level of general acceptance, the gharar, the ambiguity, uncertainty is still there. Honestly, I mean, to my knowledge, nothing has been changed. I do not trust cryptocurrency whatsoever. if I buy like one unit of what do you call it, Bitcoin for $46,000, I do not guarantee that within 1 week it might jump to 100,000, which is perfect, and it might go down to 10,000.
Last week it was 34,000.
Last
Last week it was 34,000.
34,000,
Yeah.
and it's now 46. You see, so it's very, very, very risky, very risky. And the fluctuation again is very unsubstantiated.
Actually, there's a website or app called Crypto Islam that, which I'm not voting for it or many will, because what you put what kind of crypto you want to use, and it will give you this halal or haram based on what they charge interest or not. But also that has, like, if you look at it a month ago and now, because the way the crypto has changed in the world, so it became halal. So it came back to the, if there was a riba in the transaction or wrong, that's what started making halal.
Well, if we agree that cryptocurrency is a kind of currency, then trading in it is permissible, and the change in the market, the fluctuation in the market value is expected. But what is unique about cryptocurrency is that there is no tangible, measurable reason behind that fluctuation. You see, which makes again, the gharar very, very, very obvious. Moving on, yes, sir.
Just a quick question. Despite of its very high fluctuation in value, how come large corporations like Tesla is not accepting cryptocurrency for car purchase? I mean, if it value goes up or down so much, how somebody who is owning a company like that would want to take cryptocurrency?
Well, some people might say,
or real estate sale purchase. Real estate is.
Does Microsoft accept cryptocurrency? Microsoft?
Most of the companies, they just stop.
They do, you see.
Most of the
They are
companies-
starting, eventually they will also.
So again, it is imposing itself here. If we can just find a solution for the gharar issue, for the ambiguity, we're good to go. But so far, I couldn't find any way out where you can anticipate or expect, right? I mean, what will happen and why it will happen. That's why, from my side on an individual level, I would just stay away from it now.
Can I ask you a question regarding stock, like option trading? Is option trading allowed or not?
Option is not an option. Option is not an option. Okay. When you want to trade, you need to make sure that you purchase something tangible or represents a commodity or merchandise or goods or services. When you buy an option, what are you buying exactly? The right of purchasing a certain financial instrument. It's not a service. It's not a commodity. Okay. Maybe very, very few options might be permissible as long as you are positive that a certain stock worth $100 and you purchase an option for $5. Okay, $5. If it is proven that you still have the right, you know what this option means, right?
Yeah.
That you lock the price,
Yeah.
okay, for a certain period of time. So we are now in February 2022. When you purchase an option for this stock for $5, it means that you lock the price on $100 from now all the way until the end of June 2022. So far, so good. If it is proven that you still have the right to purchase the stock itself, and if you do, you have to pay only $95. That might be justified based on something called bay'ul urbun, that you put a down payment, right, on a certain price that you agree on, and you just have that right all the way until a certain period of time. That would be fine. The vast majority of options actually do not go this way. You cannot even purchase the actual financial instrument. You just purchase the option, and you have the right to sell the option to somebody else. But the actual financial instrument is not your right to buy it. Okay. Different fiqh council actually has made it clear. Futures options are not halal.
The reward that crypto give you? Is it halal? It feels like there's a reward.
Cashback, you mean, or something like this? How can you get it?
In crypto, they give you back in crypto.
Are you talking about staking?
Staking and also the reward, you know, if you hold a certain crypto for a certain time, you get a reward.
He's talking about, like how you can, see, Chef, you could create a wallet, have your stable, there's, you know, there's different with all the cryptos, there is too many, but there is something called stable. Like if you take any stable coin and put it in a wallet, just leave it there. And every week you get the same coin. Yeah, you get like every week you get about maybe 1 or 2 of them.
Only for saving that coin, the coin?
Yeah, for holding it, not selling it or buying it. If you buy that certain coin, you get a reward.
Well, I need to read more about this. I don't have an answer. طيب, let's talk about the third and the final topic of tonight, which is life insurance. I'm not sure where is it here. Bankruptcy. That's a bad topic, right? I don't know where is it here. Anyway, when it comes to life insurance, long story short, there is a semi-unanimity between different people of knowledge, different councils, that any kind of commercial insurance that is not government-based one is not allowed because it involves gharar, okay, ambiguity, in a sense that you pay premium and you do not know how much you will be getting in return. You do not know whether or not you will be getting something in return. Very good example is the liability insurance. You keep paying premium and you keep driving your car for years and years without having any car accident. You do not know whether or not you will be getting something in return. Okay, that's called gharar. Something very similar called jihala, which is uncertainty. It means even if you are positive that you will be getting something in return, you are not positive how much you'll be getting in return. Health insurance is a very good example. You pay $1,000 premium to the insurance company, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas, for example. As a human being, I mean, you will get sick. You will go to the doctor. You will be hospitalized maybe one day, Allahu Akbar. But you do not know how much the company will be paying in your behalf. That's called jihala, which is different than gharar, right? The mainstream fatwa says that any kind of government-based insurance, which is here in the USA, could be Social Security. It's a kind of insurance. Social Security, Medicare and Medicaid. Are you aware of anything else? Okay. They said that any kind of commercial insurance, because of the gharar, and when it comes to life insurance, because of the riba, you pay less and you get more. You pay only $250 a month, for example, and upon your death, after a long life, your family members will be getting like one check of $500,000 or $1 million, right? They said you pay less and you take more, right? Which is the nature of riba. So based on that, they said that commercial insurance is not halal by default. However, they came up with some exceptions. If it is mandated by the law of the land, for example, then you can take it. If it is offered by your employer, you are not the one who signed the life insurance, it was offered to you as a part of the package that you receive, you can take it. If there is a desperate need for it, you can take it, right? This is the mainstream fatwa. However, there is another opinion that made a very strong argument. Okay, it goes as follows: all different kinds of insurance, whether it is a government-based or mutual-based or stock-based, they are the same. Do you know the difference between stock-based and mutual-based? Mutual-based actually means that we do not have two different bodies in the structure of the company. All the policyholders are the shareholders, right? The stock-based one, we have two different bodies, and the conflict of interest is very clear between, conflict of interest is very clear. If it is a stock-based, then we have shareholders, the owners of the company, versus policyholders, which are the customers. You as a customer, you want to pay less and to get compensated as much as you can. From their perspective, they want you. They want to charge you as much as they can and pay you as less as possible. So the conflict of interest actually is obvious and clear. Okay, and the main focus on the stock-based companies is to give the surplus or the profit to whom? To the shareholders, to the owners of the company. When it comes to shareholders, mutual based. There are no two bodies to start with. Okay? Mutual based, like Liberty Mutual in the US. It's a mutual based, which means that every single policyholder is one of the owners of the company by default, right? Back to our discussion. We have government based, and we have mutual based, and we have stock-based insurance, commonly called as commercial. Fiqh Council say that anything related to the government is halal by default, okay? Because it's not for profit, it is like for cooperation and benevolence and reducing, or sharing the risk between a group of people. So it is for noble cause. There is no profit motive behind it. And that's why, we can overlook all the deficiencies in the agreement. When it comes to commercial, no, it is haram because of what I already explained. Now, the argument here is that this assumption is incorrect. Whether you're talking about government-based, mutual-based, stock-based, all these different agreements are bilateral agreements, two-sided commitment. Okay, when you deal with the Social Security, what kind of deal you have with them? They tell you, okay, you pay me, or I will be deducting from your paycheck $150 a month, right? In order for you, upon your death, I will be taking care of your family members. I will pay your wife this amount until she passes away. I will pay your kids this amount until the age of 18, until the age of 20, whatever the deal might be, right? So if you commit yourself to pay the premium, you will be eligible to get the compensation. Is that correct? Now, on the other hand, the life insurance company is telling you, pay me $150 a month, and if you die, just rest in peace, do not worry, I will pay your family members, right? What is the difference between this approach and this approach? Technically speaking, legally speaking, there is no difference. You see, that's the argument. Even if you are like a wonderful individual and you are serving the community and nice to everybody, if you do not have an account with the Social Security and you passed away, will they sympathize with your family members and say, okay, wallah, al-marhum kana bin halal, let's give his family members money? They will never do that, because there is no commitment, there is no contract, there is no financial commitment from your side. So that's called bilateral agreement, two-side commitment. In other words, no one actually is doing you a favor. There is no benevolence or sadaqah or donation or ihsan here. It's a legal commitment. You pay the premium to the government, to commercial insurance, stock-based, mutual-based. It doesn't make any difference. You will be getting a certain compensation in return. When it comes to gharar, ambiguity, I disagree that there is a gharar here. There is no gharar. If I have a life insurance policy, right? The outcome return is well known for me. Okay, I know that if I'm to pass away today, tomorrow morning the insurance company will be giving my family members one check of $1 million. So what I'm purchasing from them is the peace of mind, right? That I will not be worried about the financial situation of my family members, as well as the commitment. Okay, this scenario actually is very similar to the bodyguardship agreement, like for those VIP individuals, politicians, and they might hire a bodyguard, paying him $5,000 or $7,000 a month. That bodyguard might do nothing throughout the whole month long, other than just smoking and drinking coffee, right? But he tells you, based on the agreement, that do not worry, Okay, I'm armed. If someone like come, try to tackle you or hurt you, I'm gonna defend you. That commitment actually deserves $5,000 or $7,000 a month, right? The insurance company is telling you the same. Give me $150 a month, and do not worry. If you pass away, I will commit to taking care of your family members. Based on this approach, there is no difference, fiqh-wise, between government-based, mutual-based, stock-based insurance. Life insurance, health insurance, business insurance, home insurance, any kind of insurance actually should be the same. So we either say, okay, all these different kinds of insurance are haram, or otherwise everything is halal. But to say no, Social Security is halal, Medicare and Medicaid are halal because they are government-based. Anything else is haram. Fiqh-wise, does not click in my mind. I was going with the mainstream fatwa until maybe 2016 or 17, and then I changed my mind completely. I'm now with the opinion that insurance is an Islamic concept by itself. Maybe the practice is bad. Maybe insurance companies are abusing the system, taking advantage of their customers. That's completely different discussion, right? Maybe they invest their money in a haram way. That's a completely different issue. Let's draw a line between the status of the insurance as an agreement, as a legal contract between you and the insurance company versus what comes after that, right? Even if you're talking about haram investment, well, do you want to tell me that Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid invest their money in a halal way? It is not the case, right? So what I believe in is that any kind of insurance is halal by default. I mean, we do not have to wait until an actual necessity or desperate need to occur in order for us to permit it. It is halal. It's a brand new agreement. Okay, it has no precedence like in the past, something like people came up with to serve the best interests of the community, right? So the concept itself is a Sharia compliant one. The practice might be bad, but this does not make the whole concept haram. This is briefly actually what I have in mind when it comes to insurance. I do have my own life insurance policy, and I believe that I have made the right decision. Again, I was with the mainstream fatwa like throughout my whole life long. I'm now 52 years old. I changed my mind just a few years ago. I purchased my own life insurance policy before I take the member on Friday and tell my community that I believe that insurance is halal. And again, I think I have made the right decision. I do not even doubt it that insurance is halal. I highly recommend everyone living in this society here to make sure that you have your own insurance. If you have enough insurance through your employment or your employer, that's good, alhamdulillah. Otherwise, go ahead and just purchase your own. Even if you want to be in the safe side, right, and to have insurance, to have life insurance without violating the mainstream fatwa, you still can do so. Because according to the mainstream fatwa, if the insurance is a mutual-based insurance, it's still halal. So you can catch two different birds in one stone, right? You can have life insurance with a mutual-based insurance company. That will be a good option for me. And like as a student of knowledge, I do not believe that there is a difference between stock-based, mutual-based, government-based. And the insurance that I have is not with a mutual one. It's just with a stock-based company. Now, this is what I have in mind regarding insurance briefly. Insurance before we just go.
Do we have any questions?
Yes, sir.
Companies have two options. One is like life insurance that actually you cannot remove from your benefit. And another part is you can increase it, like two-fold, three-fold, or four-fold, even increase it. So what's the mainstream follow on that one?
Well, if you want to go with the mainstream fatwa, limit yourself to the life insurance offered by your employer. They said that you are not the one who signed the agreement. It came as a part of the package that you receive from your company, like the paycheck, like the health insurance, like the 2 weeks paid vacation, whatever they give you, right? Retirement account. They give you life insurance. If you want to be in the safe side and you think that amount is good for your family members, Allah forbid, like if something happened to you, just be on the safe side. If you change your mind one day and you believe that insurance is halal, then maybe you can upgrade by paying more and get more compensation. Now,
Not related to the insurance, but just someone actually showed me a contract from the guidance residential. They had a number saying profit rate, which is 4.95%, which seems like exactly calculated the same way as the interest is calculated, the fixed rate interest. So every year, however amount that's left, it seems like they multiply that number and that's what you pay yearly. Is that understanding correct? How does it work?
well, that's correct. And they calculate the profit rate in the same way that the mainstream practice, the mortgage companies calculate the interest rate based on your like total income debt ratio, your credit scores, right? Your employment history, right? So maybe we both apply for the same loan with guidance residential, right? You get only 3.5% profit rate, and they charge me 5% because your credit is higher, your employment history is longer than you are debt free. I have debt. So based on certain formula, they calculate. Now, matching the profit rate with the prevailing interest rate actually is fine because they need to be competitive with other companies. So I don't see anything wrong with that. Anything wrong with it, as long as the contract itself is legitimate one, which is up to certain limit. Should be. No. Make sense?
And it's just a concept that if you delay the payment, you charge more compared to if I pay upfront now. Sounds like an interest rate.
Well, that is the amortization system in the US, and they have to abide with that. Okay, let me ask you this. You went to Bank of America, to Countrywide, like in a traditional mortgage company, right? You borrowed $500,000. When they did their math, you're supposed to pay them $800,000 within 30 years. Next day in the morning, someone passed away from your relatives, you inherited the money. You went to Countrywide. Are they going to charge you? I mean, you want to pay off the loan. Are they going to charge you $500,000 or 800,000?
I expect $500,000.
No, only $500,000.
Only $500,000.
Right. Okay. So they charge you interest as you go. Yeah, that's called the amortization system. Now, what is even confusing more when it comes to guidance residential, I mortgage my own house with guidance, right? They go with the amortization system, but they quote unquote they islamize it in a way that the monthly payment is divided. One portion goes toward the rent, one portion goes toward the equity, right? Versus in the traditional practice, interest versus principal. So they one goes for the rent because you rent their property, you live in their house, technically, right? And the small portion goes toward the equity. I don't see anything wrong with that. What is even more and more complicated here is that they sell their contract to Freddie Mac. Okay, this is like a worrisome issue for some people, but actually it should not. If you agree with me, if you agree that they own 95% of the house upon like the inception of the agreement between you and them, and they turn their face next day and sell that contract to Freddie Mac, they are selling the 95% equity that they have in the house, and there's nothing wrong with that. They are not selling a loan. They say
their share.
Thank you.
But also, then how does it work that they will have the ownership with you for the 30 years, even though they sold this independently? Yeah.
Okay, what you are responsible for, is the legitimacy and the soundness of the agreement that you sign with guidance residential. What happens after that is their problem, if there is any problem with that. And the evidence for that is that the mushrikeen in Mecca, for example, they used to deal with interest, riba, is that correct? And the Jewish community in Medina, they were even the founders of riba. Prophet ﷺ used to transact with the mushrikeen in Mecca and with the Jews in Medina, and he did not even ask any one of them, where did you get your money from? Is it riba or not? Okay. Which makes it clear that your emphasis should be on the legitimacy and the soundness or the permissibility of the agreement that you sign or you get involved with the other party. Okay, whatever goes beyond that's his responsibility. You are not, I mean, you're not responsible for it. طيب جزاك الله خير سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك